coming, the sun's zooming in, meltdown expected, the wheat is good there, engines stop running, but I have no fear, 'cause London is drowning.
Hello everybody and welcome to the By the Minute Arsenal podcast. We're back for a new season, which is all very exciting. But let's hope it's exciting. Obviously there's a long way to go and things could go terribly wrong, but it's August, there's still optimism. The season starts this weekend, so we thought we'd get started. I am Matt H and I'm delighted to say live from France, no less, we have Matt V. Hello Matt.
Hello, good to speak to you again. Yeah, I'm in France. I thought I'd take matters into my own hands and try and find us a centre-back myself in France, see if I could scout anyone out. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find anyone, so it's been really a wasted trip.
That's one for TripAdvisor or whatever people even reviews on there. A wasted trip. France, wasted time. Yeah. It's excellent to have you here. Pete, who normally is with us, is not able to be with us today, but hopefully we'll get him in the new season. Right, housekeeping first of all. We are going to move to a monthly pod. So basically we'll be at the end of August or just in September we'll do an August pod. So it's not going to be that far away probably for that one. And then we'll do one each month as we go along. And of course special events might change things and stuff like that. But our plan is just to take the load off all of us doing it and you listening to it. If we just do once a month, it gives us a bit more freedom to talk about a variety of different things and perhaps we can avoid having to complain about the same things every time. Although perhaps we'll do the same just 12 times a year rather than sort of 40. So, well, not 12 times. We're not going to do it every month. We won't do one in July next year, for now at least. But, right. Well, let's get going then. We should do some sort of chat first. So, Matt, did you enjoy the World Cup? Was there anything about it in particular you enjoyed? Or was it just one of those things to get through?
I did enjoy it, actually. I thought it was really enjoyable. I'm not sure if it was the quality of football or just all of the games seemed to have so much drama. I think it's probably helped by VAR and just every game seemed to really entertaining. So I really enjoyed it. Obviously, England doing well helped, gave everyone some hope they weren't expecting to have, and then took it away. But I think England to get to semi-finals and overall a really enjoyable tournament, which was won by a really good team in France. I don't think we could have asked for much more, really.
It's funny, obviously the World Cup wasn't that long ago, but it already seems like a lifetime because as you were talking about it then, I was thinking, yes, it was fun. There were good games. There was lots of stuff going on. So that was obviously a big football activity over the summer. Yeah, I agree. It was very entertaining. I'm trying to think if Portugal-Spain stood. I think that sort of got the ball rolling almost. That was quite early on that game, if I remember rightly. I should know. I covered it on By the Minute, and we seemed to get things going and set the bar, as it were, for everyone. I know it was fantastic, and there were, like you say, VAR. It added lots of entertainment, and whether it was good or not, it almost doesn't matter because it was entertaining. Right, let's move on. There we are. We've done our sort of summer catch-up, as it were. Let's move to Arsenal. A new hope, a new optimism, hopefully. I mean, there always is every August, but hopefully there's a little bit more this year. We have our new manager. We have a couple of new players, shiny new players to look at, and we have some departures for that matter. So I thought, first of all, we would have a quick look through the summer transfer business. And before we get into individuals, Matt, just on a sort of scale of 1 to 10, for want of a better phrase, how happy would you be with 10 being delighted and 1 being unsurprised, should we say, or underwhelmed, certainly?
I feel I was a lot more optimistic at the start of the summer when we sort of made a few transfers, but then it sort of petered out and we didn't do anything else. So I'm probably go with a 6. I think we have improved in areas we needed to, but I don't think we've improved enough. I mean, we'll come on to individuals in a minute, as you said. Going forward, I don't have any particular issues. I think midfield we're stronger, but the defence is a real issue. Centre-back in particular, I think we talked about before at the end of last season, that was something we really needed to improve. And, you know, we signed one player and loaned out one player. So in terms of numbers, we haven't improved. And in terms of quality, it remains to be seen if we've improved. So I think we're heavily reliant on Emery just providing a system that makes us more solid, because on an individual level, I'm not convinced we can compete with the teams around us at the moment.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? There's a lot of unknowns at the moment, of course, and we'll have to sort of see how that shapes out over the next few weeks and months. Yeah, I know what you mean about that transfer stuff. It seemed to stop. We seem to get moving quite quickly. We got the ball moving reasonably well, and then it did seem to sort of slow down. I should say, of course, whilst we can't have any more players in because of the new transfer window rules, we could still be losing some players. So even though this is the Friday before the season starts, in fact, of course, the season starts in a couple of hours with Man United and Leicester. We could still lose more players. Now, I'm looking at the list here on The Guardian of the number of players who've come in and the number of players who've gone out. There's a lot of names in the out that will not be particularly familiar, even to the staunchest Arsenal fan, but I wanted to pick out a couple just to see what you thought. Cazorla, we knew, was not a surprise. We knew he was off. Jack Wilshere did go to West Ham, and the other name, perhaps worth picking out far more recently, was Lucas Perez, the rather long and strange journey of Perez at Arsenal, or perhaps short and strange journey. Very odd, quite frankly. Anything you'd like to pick up about any of those, or indeed any of the other departures?
Yeah, very strange. Signed him for 18 million, and we sold him for 4 or 5. We are absolutely terrible at selling players. Either we sell them, we let them run down their contract for free, or sell them for absolutely nothing. When you look at some of the fees floating around for players, yeah, I don't think you really should be able to sign anyone for 4 million. But especially considering I don't think he was terrible when he did play. It's just he didn't play very much. It was a strange signing when he did come. I don't think Wenger was ever hugely convinced when he came. Didn't get a huge amount of game time, and I think it was inevitable he was going to leave. But Wilshere again, another one that looked like he was leaving. But there are some names on there that I cannot believe we still have. Carl Jenkinson. He's still at the club. I could have sworn he left a couple of years ago. Joel Campbell won't leave. David Ospina will not go away, despite the fact every transfer window for the last 3 years he's linked with a move to Turkey. But
yeah, always Turkey. Yeah,
hopefully that still happens. So yeah, there are certainly some bodies that we could do with shifting, and hopefully we do.
That's an interesting point, actually, because I've got the list in front of me from the Guardian website of the transfers in, transfers out. I've sort of neglected those who are still hanging around, but and of course you're right, the names you've pointed out, they could still go. But it's funny, isn't it? Because it's not about the money for us, probably not really for them. You'd hope it's about sort of playing time and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, there's some strange names. The other name I wanted to bring up, and coming back to your point about defenders, actually, is Callum Chambers, who we've now let go out on loan to Fulham, which seems a slightly odd move given our circumstances.
Yeah, it seems really strange. Played a bit in pre-season. I'll be honest, having watched, as we all did, having watched Mustafi last season, I'm not thrilled at the prospect of him being our first choice again. I thought Chambers probably could have had a decent run at being our first choice. He signed a contract a few weeks ago. Emery seemed to be convinced, but it didn't make any sense really at the time. It made even less sense when we then didn't sign anyone. I think we're going into the season with Mustafi, Socrates, Holding, and Mavropanos as our only centre-backs until Koscielny is fit. So we look light in numbers and quality, really. So yeah, that was a really strange one, but yeah, a good move for Fulham, and hopefully is a good season. Then comes back next summer with a bit more experience, and hopefully then become a bit more established at Arsenal.
Yeah, well, let's move. So farewell to some of those players, and the Jack Wilshere one was interesting. It seems to have been so long ago now, but as someone who's an Arsenal product, as it were, it's maybe sad to see him go, but it seemed right time, didn't it? Really, time for him to move on. Let's look on the other side of the ledger then. And again, the incoming stuff, we did seem to get quite a lot of our business done early. Haven't really done anything up front, but midfield and obviously at the back in terms of the goalkeeper and a couple of Lichtsteiner as well, I should say, coming in. Any other names you'd like to pick out? I mean, Torreira, I had a look at the World Cup. He looks good, and obviously he was the most expensive at the thick end of 30 million quid. I must admit, I'm not a big one for watching pre-season friendlies, so I can't say I've seen much of any of these people in action in an Arsenal shirt, but. 20, just over 19 million quid in a goalkeeper, which now looks cheap considering what Liverpool are paying. Chelsea have been paying recently, and Liverpool, of course, a bit earlier in the summer. Defence aside, we'll come to that later on. To me, it seems okay. Up front, we were sort of okay anyway, given our relatively recent signings in that area. Midfield and a goalkeeper we've got, and we have been talking about a goalkeeper before. So, before we get to the defence, what are your thoughts on those areas?
Yeah, I think Torreira is probably the most exciting because he's a kind of player we've needed for a long time. And the bits he did play for Uruguay, I agree. I thought he was impressive. I have watched a fair bit of pre-season, and having seen how our midfield was against Chelsea, Torreira is going to have to be extremely special to try and save us. It will be interesting to see because at least now we have some options. You know, Ramsey, Elneny, Torreira, Xhaka. Also, one of our signings, Guendouzi, played a lot of pre-season. He looked really impressive. So it'll be interesting to see how much game time he gets in the league, or whether he'll sort of be for Europa League. So I think midfield we've got a lot of options and we can be flexible depending on the opposition. And then up front is just, I think that's really exciting. Remains to be seen whether we go Aubameyang and Lacazette or one of them on the wing. I think we're going to have to rely heavily on our attack because the defence I don't think is going to win us many games. But I think we've got a midfield that's stronger than we've had for a fair while, and an attack which is really exciting. So hopefully we have the ingredients there to have a vaguely successful season.
Well, let's touch on the defence. And you mentioned Mustafi, who, has become less convincing, I think, as his Arsenal's career has gone on. We have obviously got Lichtsteiner brought in, but it wasn't our wing-backs really that were the issue, what was it? It's these other players. We have spent nearly 18 million quid, according to The Guardian, on Socrates. Oh dear, I should really have practiced his surname. Papastathopoulos, I think, from Borussia Dortmund. Of course, he's from Borussia Dortmund. So since the last week, the stuff I've been reading from in the Arsenal press, for a better word, is some nerves, shall we say, about the defence. And I mean, you've touched on it already. Is there anything else you'd want to add at this point, other than to say, I mean, it's a wait and see thing, isn't it? But I think we are right to have our concerns, shall we say, even though apparently the manager has been really working on tightening things up at the back, which, as we know, was still an issue last year, even with a slightly different personnel. Yeah,
he's going to have his work cut out because they're terrifying, some of those prospects. Mavropanos, has only played 3 games for us and he got sent off in one of those. Holding has never really established himself in the first team, and then Socrates had a tough season apparently at Dortmund last year, so it remains to be seen how he does. Also going into the season with a distinct lack of left-backs. Kolasinac is injured for a couple of months. I don't think Monreal's fit enough to start against City, so that probably leaves Maitland-Niles at left-back. So yeah, as I said earlier, we're going to be heavily relying on Emery drilling a defence and effectively creating a unit that adds up to more than it does on an individual basis, because there are certainly some issues there. But look, hopefully Bellerin can find some of his best form again, because if he can, he's as good as a right back as there is in the league, really, probably. And Leno will hopefully be a calming influence at the back if he does indeed start ahead of Czech. So I think there is some promise, but it just remains so heavily to be seen how we do set up and how much Emery, or how long Emery will take to be able to get his style of play across on the players.
Well, we've got 3 games in August, so 3 league games. So when we come back to do the next one of these, end of August or start of September, it will be. We won't panic yet, but I think we could probably commence panicking then if we were not impressed with what we saw. Sure. Given our opposition, certainly those first couple of games, it may not be just as simple as, well, we lost those games or whatever, and that's bad. There may be that we could play well in those games yet still not get 3 points. I think that's fair enough with a new team, new manager, lots of stuff going on. So I think we shouldn't judge too much on these first couple of games. But I think certainly by September we'll have that slightly better idea, and then we can panic slightly more as each month goes past, if we want to parcel it out. The other thing we should mention briefly, although I don't feel particularly qualified to talk about in any great detail, is the news this week was really not so much transfers as the ownership. So for those who may have missed it, Stan Kroenke has now effectively will very soon become the sole owner of Arsenal, as Sanofi has finally agreed to sell his shares for a very handsome profit for him. So there we are. I'm not sure there's much else to say at this point. Obviously, there's been lots of worry about this, about lack of transparency, about one man taking control, obviously individuals no longer allowed to be shareholders and not perhaps have voices heard. It's the way we've seen other clubs go, and I don't know if necessarily there's been any resounding success stories in that way. It's a nervous time for people, and the bigger issue I think perhaps with Kroenke is he's not one who seems to put lots of money into his clubs, his sporting interest in America as well. Matt, again, this might be a watching brief for a moment while we see what happens, but I think people are probably right to be slightly nervous, aren't they, on this front?
Yeah, I think so. And obviously, the fact that he's going to be the sole shareholder is obviously a concern. But I think the main problem is him as an individual, really. Just a distinct lack of interest he seems to have in the club. He hasn't really shown any sporting ambition, really. I think he's made it clear he sees it more as a business, as he does with all of his American clubs. I'd also question the timing. I don't know whose decision it was for it, but a few days before the season, for once, all our fans were relatively in a good mood coming into the season. It's a fresh start. Everyone's quite excited, and then that news dropped straight away. And a couple of days before the transfer window closes too, and everyone's already, keen for us to potentially spend some more money. So I'd question the timing. I don't know what it means. I would probably take a few years really to see what it means. I imagine it won't really make a difference because Kroenke effectively has been in charge for the last few years. He's been offered no say at all. So. The only thing that might change is that we no longer have an AGM where Sir Chips embarrasses himself. So maybe there'll be a positive that comes out of this.
I was going to say, look for positives, as many managers are waiting to do. You make an interesting point about the timing and the possible effect of this, because for the last 2-3, maybe longer years, the moment there's been a downturn, it's been Wenger out amongst a large group of the Arsenal fans. That's no longer an issue, of course, because he's gone, but we found ourselves in the same position. The moment there's any sort of fallow period, as it were, with a few dodgy results, then it's going to be Kroenke out or something, which is almost as futile, to be frank, isn't it? But it's not going to improve the atmosphere, should we say, around the place. So yeah, well, we'll leave that for now. Again, we'll see what happens. But for the moment, I don't think there's much we can say about that other than to some slight nerves, to say the least, about that issue. Right, we'll pause there for a second. Back in a moment. How would you like a free case of craft beer? Well, as a listener to our show, we'd like to thank you for listening with the help of our friends at beer52.com. Just go to beer52.com/bytheminute to claim a free case. Beer52 is the world's most popular monthly craft beer discovery club, searching out incredible and exclusive small batch craft beers from the world's greatest breweries and bringing them back for their members. There's a whole world of craft beer out there, and this is your chance to get on board with discovering it. Every month focuses on a new country or theme, and if you sign up now, you'll get the chance to try a case of the best British craft beers as part of their Summer Bangers selection for free, featuring the country's best craft brewers such as Norman Monk, Ilkley, Red Willow and Thornbridge. You'll be able to read all about the beers and learn more about how they are made in the 100-page Ferment magazine included in the box. As a listener of our show, you can try your first case for free. Just pay £2.95 postage. That's 8 incredible craft beers, Ferment magazine and a snack delivered with a free next-day shipping. It's a no-brainer. There's no minimum commitment. You can take the free case, try the beers and see what you think. If it's not for you, you can pause, cancel anytime. Beer52 has a 5-star rating on Trustpilot, so it's easy to see that their members love the service. We deliver 8 craft beers, the award-winning Ferment magazine and a tasty snack with different themes every month. Past themes have included California, Norway, Belgium, Amsterdam and even Norway, to name a few. Compare and contrast these incredible beers with the help of the tasting guides in the 100-page Ferment magazine, featuring interesting articles about what's in the glass from some of the best writers in the beer world. Don't like dark beers? You can tailor the box to your preferences. You can also rate and review all the beers you've collected on our website. Rated 9.2 on Trustpilot, young UK startup Beer52 is now the largest craft beer club in the world. 1 per household, new customers only, part of a monthly subscription with no minimum commitment. If you choose to stay, you will be delivered 8 craft beers, Ferment magazine and a snack with free delivery for just £24. Full terms at beer52.com/terms. Just visit www.beer52.com/bytheminute and claim your free case today. Okay, here we go again then, back with our Arsenal by the Minute podcast preview for the season. So Matt, let's move on to looking ahead now. Predictions for the future. Sorry, not for the future so much as just for this season. We've done this before, I think, and again, difficult to get into too much detail when we need to see how the team is all going to play together. But are we back where qualification for the Champions League is a minimum or a goal, or where do you think we should be looking in terms of where we'd like to end this season?
I think top 4 should be our goal. I think anything particularly beyond that is probably unrealistic. It's going to take a while for Emery to get us as he wants us to be, a bit more solid. You look at City, they're so far ahead of us. Liverpool have heavily strengthened. I think there is a chance for top 4 because Chelsea have also got a new manager. Sarri might take a while to get going. Tottenham haven't signed anyone. Mourinho is having a strop. So there could be opportunities there. But I think we just have to give Emery time. I think progress might not necessarily be in, it's not going to be necessarily winning trophies, but if we don't get battered in every away game, if we, show some actual fight against the big teams, if our defense doesn't look like a disaster, just things like that, where there's a bit more enjoyable to watch and where we're competitive against the bigger teams, I think that'll be positive. We've also got the Europa League, which Emery has a great record in. That's another potential opportunity into the Champions League. So look, I think there's a good chance we could be in the Champions League next year. I don't think we should. Obviously, we can hope for it, but I don't think it's realistic to expect us to challenge for the title just yet. The only concern with that is that I was looking at our squad the other day, and it's not really a squad that you think you can wait 2 or 3 years for Emery to really be at his peak. The likes of Aubameyang, Mkhitaryan, Ozil, they're all sort of 28, 29 and sort of in their peak right now. So we need them really to be firing to push us into the top 4, because 2 or 3 years time they're not going to potentially be at the levels that they are now. So perhaps we can't give Emery as much time as he potentially needs. But look, if we get into the top 4, have some decent runs in the cups, I don't think too many people could complain about that for a first season.
But I think it's a very good point actually to think about the first season, because I take your point. Absolutely, I hadn't thought of it like that. But if we've got players who are aging a little bit, that's a problem for the future, and that comes back to the ownership issue, of course, and it comes back to how the purse strings are dealt with, as it were. So, yeah, first season, I agree with you. I think Champions League, City they weren't just much better than Arsenal last year; they were better than everyone last year, and I find it very interesting that Spurs haven't signed anyone. I was expecting someone, even if I didn't think they'd go mad. I thought there might be 1 or 2 players. I wonder if that's based on the stadium issue for them. I think that does give us a slight chink of light. You've picked up on things I was going to say. Chelsea and Mourinho, just I don't know why he's giving everyone the satisfaction of playing exactly to type. You think he'd want to do something different, but no, apparently he seems to be determined to keep people. Oh, it's third season, that's what happens. Even if that's become a bit of a cliche, he's completely playing up to it, which seems ridiculous. I mean, I think United have enough quality to still be a force, shall we say? But yeah, I think if we can do quite well, if we can get going to a decent start over the first few games, then yeah, absolutely, and we can do okay. And the Europa League, as you say, we did pretty well in that last year. I think the same again would be entertaining if we could keep that going alongside a strong-ish top 4 challenge, should we say? And anything more than that would be fabulous. But I think City and Liverpool particularly are going to be a real challenge, should we say? But we should be looking at them as the way to go, ideally. So we'll see how that goes. Right. We'll come back to this every month, I'm sure, and see how we are and see what our hopes and dreams are for the rest of the season, but we might as well start high. Now, we're not going to do it today, but I'm going to very briefly tell you about the new prediction game that I'm going to suggest we do. Obviously, it would be very boring for everyone if we all sat and made 4, 5, 6 predictions for the month ahead, as we're only doing this monthly. So what I'm going to do, is for me and Pete and Matt, is you can pick any game you want from the upcoming month and predict the score, and it can be the same as other people have. It can be completely different. So in theory, the reason my theory for this is we might do slightly better, but whether that's the case or not, I don't know. So pick 1 game per month, and you can put all your eggs in that 1 basket per month, and so that's it. So there we are. So not really that much of a difference, but I thought that would be easier for all concerned. So there we go. So that's what we'll do with that. I won't ask for your prediction now because I've only just sprung it on you. So I'll get you and Pete to send me it, and then we'll discuss it next time. So what does that leave? Well, that leaves perhaps a very brief look ahead then to August. I'm not going to go through each game. I will just mention we're at home to City, we're away at Chelsea, and we are at home to West Ham. I won't ask Matt for your theories on your thinking on all of those games, but feel free to chip in with any if you have. I was going to concentrate really on the City game, and just to note, it's this Sunday, it's 4:00, it's the start of our season, and I think we've discussed this a little bit anyway, but what we'd like to see, and I think we'd like to see, wouldn't we, a decent performance. If we can get a win, that would be magnificent, but we would really sort of stake a bit of a claim, as it were, make a mark. But what would you like to happen? What do you think will happen?
Two very different things.
Very different questions.
The City in the Community Shield looks outrageously good already, despite not having De Bruyne, Sterling, David Silva, etc.
It's frightening, isn't it, when you put it like that?
It's not good. Still haunted from when we got absolutely creamed by them twice in a week last season, including at the Emirates, which was an absolute battering. I think we'll be more competitive, just because I don't think we'll be as gung-ho and as expansive. At least I hope not. If I'm not expecting us to win, I think we might scrape a draw, potentially 1-1. I think that'd be a great result. Even if we lose, if we're at least competitive. The fact is, we're not going to be playing teams like Manchester City every week. That our results against City aren't really going to be the ones that decide how we do. So, ideally, we're not going to get absolutely battered, because then that puts Emery under pressure immediately, and our confidence is shattered immediately. If we can get just put in a good performance and one that we can build from, then I think that'd be a real positive. I think this is probably as good a time to play City as there is. De Bruyne and Sterling said before they might play, but they're not going to be at full fitness, and City haven't got on a complete roll yet. So we could have a chance. Everyone coming to the game in high spirits. First game at the Emirates. Who knows? But I think it might finish as a draw. As I said, 1-1. I'd be really happy with that.
I think that would be excellent. It's funny, the build up to the Charity Shield, whatever it's called, Community Shield, was very funny, wasn't it? Lots of people saying, well, City have got all these players that have been away, it'll be interesting to see how maybe they won't do that. And then again, I must admit, I didn't see the game, but every report I read and the bits I saw were just dominant. And that's against a team that were pretty would have hopes of the top for themselves, even if the personnel isn't necessarily all in place. So it's the one thing to cling to perhaps is that it's 10 years, I think, isn't it, since the Premier League team has defended the title successfully. So whilst that doesn't mean they'll necessarily be particularly bad against us on Sunday, they didn't win every game last year, they nearly, but not quite. If we could get something out of this game on Sunday, I think that would be good. I mean, I'd hope a defeat wouldn't automatically get the knives out, but I think Arsenal have given themselves a bit of a rod for their own back with that one, with this ownership news, which is not going to go down particularly well. I think there will be patience for the manager, but you wonder if it's taken a few games off where there might have been, as it were. So, the way Arsenal are set up now, of course, if there are any problems in terms of the defence, actually he can say, I'm sure he wouldn't say it directly, but it can be clear, actually, it wasn't me. We've got this whole team now that do the transfers. It's not the manager. So, although you don't want to then start some kind of ruction between the two groups, as it were. So hopefully it won't get done that way. But I just foresee if we don't get at least one win out of those first two, well, say 3 games, or 4 or 5 points or something, then there could be problems. But let's not jump too far ahead of ourselves. We can save that for September. We'll see what we can get out of this first game against City, and then after that the game against Chelsea, and then after that West Ham, which we will come back to look at in September. Right then, well, I think for now we'll wrap that up, because there's so many unknowns that we have. We can't jump into going too far ahead. So for the moment, Matt, I will let you get back to your holiday and say thank you very much for your company.
Thank you very much. I just hope there's no individual errors against City, because if someone like Mustafi makes an error in the first game of the season, it's going to be a very, very long campaign.
Well, this is it, because our defence that's it now, isn't it? Unless anyone's coming through from youth ranks or something, or they try some exciting new formation where we move players around a bit. That's what we've got now. So yeah, there's an interesting another little thing for us to think about. But anyway, thank you very much for your company. We will be back. I don't know exactly when yet. It will be after those after those August games have taken place, and we'll be back then, and we will speak to you soon. Okay, enjoy Sunday if you can, and we'll speak to you then. Okay, take care. Bye bye.